Alright gamers, it is time for yet another part of unused content in games, and today we're continuing through New Super Mario Bros Wii, Part 3. So let us start over here with unused level features as well as later on for unused gimmicks, or graphics, excuse me, and begin. But before we truly begin, I do gaming content like this all the time. If that's your type of thing and you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's for free and you can always change your mind later on. Anyways, here we go. Going through some unused graphics. Unused parts of stages, World 7-Tower, or Dungeon as I called it throughout the playthrough. Here's an early version of it. Note some differences like the star coin over here. In the final game, there are some blocks over here that you need to use bomb-bombs to destroy. And I guess these little blue blocks are likely just referencing the different blocks, the question mark blocks, as well as the bomb-bomb cannons that they come out of. And then right over here is the secret exit in the final game. Actually, no, wait, the secret exit is over here in the final game, if I remember correctly. But yeah, honestly, I kind of, for the star coin specifically, I kind of wish they kept this part here, because my god, is that thing a pain in the ass to get in the final game, at least for me. Maybe other people don't have such a bad time for it, but I do, and thank the Lord I don't ever have to do that again if I don't want to. Anyways, and here's what it looks like in the final game. Once again, those blocks are the coins in them that I mentioned earlier, and the secret exit right over here. A few things are also different as well, like this coin, the star coin placement down here, and the warp pipe as well leading into it, because if we go back to the early version of this, the warp pipe is right over here just so you can jump right into it. But then the final game we have the warp pipe down here, you jump into the star coin and then go to this little exit. Need a little change, since I guess to them it didn't make much sense that you'd be able to just go right over here and then instantly jump, you know? Just go down and then you can jump in there anyways. Like we see over here. And if we look at them side by side, some things like platforms are different, like by the checkpoints, and a few other things like some of the platforms. And once again, you're supposed to have the rotating girder coming down. The file of Coin 1, only accessible in Coin Battle mode. Includes an unfinished version of the final area of World 7-Tower. And this is for Coin Battle, looks like, as you can see here. It's missing many objects and coins, and also has several layout changes. A full list of differences is present at the notes page. And we can take a look at that real fast. Like this over here, but we'll worry about that later on. Alright, Super Mario Bros 1-1. The file for Coin 2, or Coin-2, a level which is a wacky version of 1-1 from Super Mario Bros. Includes a version of the original bonus room, but there is no way to access it from the overworld. There is lots of coins attached to a spinning controller. The reason for removal is probably that the pipes which was supposed to lead into the area had a star coin put into it, and it glitches now when you enter it. Alright, here's a closer look at this. And here's the early version of this map, with the previous warp pipe placement down there, with the star coin. I'm going to skip through this just a little bit. Alright, and the background isn't finished, as you can see. And there's the spot where the secret exit would be in the final game. And oh my god, would that star coin have been far less annoying if it didn't have those blocks there. But in exchange, it would have had an extra cannon, which honestly I would have preferred. Just the precise, like y'all didn't see it because I got that star coin off screen, but the precise timing you need to throw the bomb at to get it is absurdly tight, and I hate it. Hated it back in elementary school, and I still hate it here. And those side blocks weren't implemented yet. This doesn't have proper collision. But the secret exit was implemented, just not properly, as you can see. Alright, next up, this one. Once again, video discovered by Skywell. And even in Coin Battle, they had star coins in it. Too bad I wasn't able to show that in the playthrough. I'll keep saying that again. But made by Skyway. Y'all should subscribe to him if you haven't already. I do remember doing some of these coin battle modes with my little sister back in elementary school as well. Alright, let's just end that there. Our World 1 title screen. The title screen stage has the horizontal warp flag enabled, which is otherwise only ever used in the first room of Coin-1. This zone is wide enough that the characters never reach to the edge before the attract mode activates, so the flag has no effect. It's possible that the title screen stage was intended to continue indefinitely by warping. The horizontal warp flag is very fragile, though, and only works with specific zone positions and widths. This results in very glitchy behavior in this stage, demonstrated with hacks on the right rather than a smooth warp. And here's what that looks like. Let's just speed through that a little bit. Alright, just keeps on going and going, man. Uh-oh. They're warping around. Now, that clearly wasn't supposed to be seen, as we don't see that in the final game. Imagine playing Mario Kart and this happens. Anyways. Alright, that's just the rest of that. Our World 1-1. 1-1 includes a single blank tile, colored red here for visibility, far from the southeast of the accessible underground bonus area. Here's a closer look at that. From the bonus area here, or the two bonus areas actually, on separate planes. Our World 1-Tower, there is a single tile located to the left of the zone in Tower 1, or 1-Tower. That looks like it's completely out of bounds of that little block there. I wonder if that's still in the game's files. Ambush levels. All the ambush levels in this world feature an unused location with ID 0, covering the whole zone. They were possibly attached to the ambush controller in the past, but they aren't used now, nor are they found in any other world's ambush stage. And here's what that looks like. I think this block over here is what the player can see on their screen. Then notice there's two other warp pipes on the side that you can't normally see. And that's where the player is supposed to start. Got the little marker there for that. Our World 2, or World 2-2, has several unused entrances spread around IDs 4 and 8. Here's what that looks like. Alright, in 32 in Area 1. And ID 0 in Area 2. That's what's assigned here in this little block over here. Likely where the player's supposed to land after they come out of the warp pipe. The Sky bonus rooms contain 3 unused locations, IDs 1, 5, and 6, likely used in the past for cloud effects. Nothing is attached to them, and here's what that looks like. Our World 2-3. To continue the trend, 2-3 has an unused entrance with ID 3 in the final zone. Here's what that looks like. Alright, World 2 Tower. 2 Tower has an unused entrance as well, with ID 0 in Area 4. Both Area 1 and 4 also feature a bunch of the unused tower tiles far below the zone. Here's what that looks like. Alright, taking a look at the tower tiles, and it takes me back to this page, so no need for that. World 2-4. 2-4 is yet another unused entrance with ID 14 in the second part of the level. Here's what that looks like. Likely makes me think that originally there was going to be a checkpoint here, so that's why this ended up going unused when they moved where the checkpoint was. Our World 3-1, has 2 unused locations inside the first 2 pipes, with IDs 5 and 6, and here's what that looks like. Likely you were originally going to go into those pipes when you can't now in the final game, whether you kill the piranha plane or not. Actually, even if you don't kill a piranha plant, you can still go into pipes that have these little access bars on them or IDs on them. It also has an unused entrance with ID 32 in the second portion of the level beneath the last red coin. Here's what that looks like. Maybe initially where a checkpoint was going to be. Our World 4, 4-1. 4-1 has a load of coins underneath the zone that are there for some reason, likely as a store unit. Probably stores them down there for when they're needed later on in the stage. Our World 4 Castle. 4 castles. Lotus Room from Star Coin 3 has an unused rotation controller on top of the Star Coin, configured to slowly spin 90 degrees clockwise while flag ID 1 is enabled. There are no rotation controllable sprites in the zone, and the only thing they're capable of activating flags is the Star Coin itself, and it's not configured to. There's a rotation controller used in the other bonus zone to the left of this one, but it's unlikely that this is an accidental copy-paste of that, because the two have completely different settings, and here's what that looks like. Alright, World 5, 5-1. 5-1 is a lone red Koopa Troopa located underneath the zone. Here's what that looks like. And anything below the line is what the player cannot see under normal circumstances, but like a hacked camera. Our World 5 tower and this little blue zone, or this blue rectangular zone, is likely where the autoscroller is. Either that or... No, wait, that's the boss fight room when you're fighting Iggy. Alright, 5 towers boss battle room has some unreachable platforms above it. Since anything within the rectangle is where the player is, anything outside of it is out of bounds. Maybe initially the fight against Iggy was going to have more platforms within. He was going to maybe fly up here for some extra attacks. That's likely what was going to happen. Our World 5 Castle. 5 Castle has 4 pairs of unused paths, with lots of nodes bunched up in vertical lines. They're difficult to visualize like this, so in the image that follows, they've been spread out horizontally for clarity's sake. The path controller that are still attached to some of them are configured to loop. It seems like they were originally used to control this level's vertically, moving chain link fences, which in the final game moves on their own instead. The first 2 sets of pads are near any of the fences, but the third and fourth are, suggesting that some fences that used to exist near the beginning of the level were replaced with the rotating fence wheels, as seen there in the final version. So that's what they're called, rotating fence wheels. At the start of the area are these 2 paths that go up and down by 4 tiles, with some easing. The fences in the final game don't have any easing, so they may have looked a little nicer when they used these paths. Alright, let's have a closer look at this. Alright, and these blocks labeled 376 are likely death planes. Actually, no, they're not death planes. They're the lava bubbles that spawn out of there. And if I had to guess, I think these here, they're either the vertical fences or the plane in which, once you pass it, you can start shooting fireballs or magic balls at you. I think that's what it likely is. Those little green lines there. Alright, here's a closer look at this one. Alright, these are similar, but only moved by 2 tiles. That or they allow the player to move up and down when they're specifically on that wheel, maybe. These paths would produce a unique stepwise motion. They would correspond to what were ultimately the first set of vertical fences in the final level. These paths would produce... wait a minute, I already said that. The paths here, which use easing again, suggest that these fences originally moved 8 tiles, rather than just 3 as in the final version. The path here, which uses easing again, shows that the face... Oh, yep, I keep reading things again. Another unused feature in this level is that 6 of the 9 of the giant rotating chain link wheels have rotation controllers at their center, even though the actor rotates on his own in the final game. I guess for visualization's sake, or immersion, whatever. 2 of them are used to rotate the giant metal bars near the end of the level. but the other 4 are unused. This could mean either that the wheels originally used rotation controls, or that they were originally more of the giant bars, which would have made the level much more difficult. Oh yeah, right about that one. But here's a closer look at these. And instead of that being for when you can shoot his fireballs at you from his wand, this is likely just for the vertical fences, it going up and down, and it controls that under certain intervals. If I had to guess. Alright, here's this one. Imagine this with Wii remote controls instead of the gyro controls. Wouldn't have been the best, especially when you're getting shot at by Yugi with this magical wand. Alright, World 6, 6-1. 6-1 has 7 coins located underneath the zone and are completely untouchable. Alright, 6-2. 6-2 has unused entrances. Entrance 7 is located near the start of the level and leads to entrance 0 in area 3. And the other, with ID 0, is located near the end of the level and leads to itself. Again, likely where the player is supposed to spawn and then goes in there to allow the player to go into the pipe. Like, kind of think of it where you would place Mario in the Mario Maker games, or where you'd place Mega Man in Mega Maker. That's what's assigned there, so the game knows where to put the player when they spawn into the level. Alright, World 7. 7-6. 7-6 has a small unused sprite location underneath the zone with ID 17. No sprite is assigned to it, and here's what that looks like. It's all the way down here in the, well below the death plane. So without a hex camera, you can't see it. Our World 8. World 8-7. 8-7 has an unused auto-scroller path for both zones. Good, I'm glad they weren't auto-scrollers. It's much faster when it's using the bone coaster. It mostly seems to follow the level design, but it's way too fast in certain spots for the bone coaster to catch up, and it's completely wrong just before the end of the first zone. Which indicates that the level was different there. The auto-scroll sprite and event activation sprites are still in the level, but the events don't match, so the auto-scroller never starts, and here's what that looks like. Our World 8-Castle. The final castle level has a bunch of tiles outside of the first zone, and a whole bunch more outside of the midpoint room, and here's what that looks like. Our World 9, 9-8. 9-8 also has an unused entrance with ID 1, and here's a closer look at that. And ID 1 sitting over here. Alright, apparently a World 12. Where's World 10 and 11? Did they get deleted? Whatever. Imagine 66 stages? Hell no. As much as I enjoy this game, hell no. World 212-66. One of the functions related to camera movement, see this code over here in the PAL version 1 build, has unique behavior for if the current level is 12-66 in area 2. There are no level files for any words or worlds beyond 9, so this level doesn't actually exist. Yeah, that's what I thought. They all, where World 10, 11, and 12 got deleted. Still, if a level with this specific name were to be loaded into multiplayer mode, instead of the usual gradual zoom out, as the player moves away from each other, the camera will zoom out as far as possible, as far as it's allowed to, as soon as the player spreads out at all. Alright, and that's the end of unused level features. Next up, unused graphics. Did I say unused graphics earlier in the video? Yeah, I did. Oh, apologies for that one. But anyways, Japanese text. Alright, sometimes there's stuff drawn or written on tile sets and images that is invisible due to the alpha channel. They can be found on many invisible tiles, used only for collision. Indicates the types for each. They may have been used in Nintendo's level editor. And here's what that looks like. All these different assets for the different levels. Alright, desert tile set. The desert tile set, with this code here, has a simple collisionless palm tree object, like a New Super Mario Bros, that goes unused in the game. It is replaced by animated 3D sprite palms that you can stand on. This tile set Also has graphics from upside down slopes, but none of the tiles are even assigned to the object in the tile set. And here's a closer look at that. Alright, tower tile set with this little pink cube over here. Alright, with this code over here, this first tile is a pink block. It's assigned to a lot of objects, but none of them are used. The block itself bears a resemblance to one that appeared in E3 2009 screenshots, but most likely was dummied out via recoloring. Alright, here's what that looks like. Kind of looks like it could have been used in an underground level. Alright, snow tile sets. As seen in pre-release screenshots, snow levels were meant to use gray variations of the basic block tile sets. They went in used in the final game, but the file is still present with this code here. So just like in New Super Mario Bros. DS, these would have been gray, and looks like they were taken straight out of Super Mario Bros. DS as well. New Super Mario Bros. DS, whatever. Alright, credits tile sets. The credits sequence stages gets its own standard tile set. The only tiles used there are the invisible solid ones, so the rest go unused. It appears to be a version of the main standard tile set rendered with an early alpha mask that no longer features the or matches the texture. Most notably, the silhouette of two arrow signboards and the climbable pole can be seen, indicating that these were once part of standard tile sets. They are both the 3D models in the final game. There is also some sort of vine or stony ladder. And the donut blocks is also depicted in tile set, instead of having a blank space in the final game. A 3D model is drawn over the tile, making any in tile set graphics pointless. This early donut block design with a flat bottom can be seen in 5-3 in the pre-release trailer shown at PAX 2009. And here's a closer look at this. And here's the staff rolls with that unused donut block. That's more square and a little less circular at the bottom. Alright, New Super Mario Bros. Leftovers. Early block roulette, unlike the one we see in the final game. Alright, this block code over here contains an early design for the block roulette, similar to the one in New Super Mario Bros. It also includes early icons for the power-ups. Note the change of mini mushroom to a one mushroom in the final game. Because the mini mushroom is chopped liver, we don't like that item, and it's still the worst item in the game. And lack of fire flower in the early version. Likely because the ice flower hadn't been implemented yet, but both propeller and penguin were. What else? Guess someone had a bit of a priority. Or some power-ups had priority. Alright, here's a closer look at these. I kind of like this penguin unused sprite. Looks real neat. The propeller one's kind of bland, though. Alright, here's an even closer one. Or look at the final game. Alright, early winged block. Alright, with this block code here, also contains a placeholder or winged block, which uses the block textures for New Super Mario Bros. The final game uses block_pata.arc. And here's what that looks like. Alright, I think there's two separate sprites there. Here it is. Alright, early coin. There's an early coin file, coin.arc, which contains a flat model and a texture of the coin from New Super Mario Bros. And here's a closer look at this. So it was likely changed to kind of fit the game's art style more from, and kind of branch away from the DS game. Early world map path, with this over here with the different spaces. While this texture from New Super Mario Bros. Is used to mark the course spots on the world map models, it's invisible in game, and here's what that looks like. Our broken pipe. Alright, with this code over here, contains broken pipe models that would have been used by the unused Mega Mario flying pipe actors. As you can see, they're a bit lacking in textures though. Alright, here's what that looks like, which probably suggests this was taken out of development pretty early, since there's barely any textures on it. It's just a light green. Unused backgrounds. Seen in E3 2009 footage, this fantastical 2D background was replaced by more realistic ones. Especially this one down here, called boss_Hososen, or Hikosen_BG, boss_airship_background. It doesn't look anything like an airship. It looks more like the inside of a building or something. It uses a different file name format. The others just use numbers. And internal file layouts and the other backgrounds. And here's what this one looks like. This might have been an unused background for the sky levels. It almost looks like a background out of Super Mario Sunshine, weirdly enough. At least I think so. And this one probably would have been the early version of the tower background, or as the name implies, for the airship, like inside of the airship, most likely. Like when we see during the Bowser Jr. boss fights. Alright, early graphics. World 1 tower icon. The file that contains textures from the stage icon in the coin battles in free-for-all multiplayer mode has an icon of Larry being battled by Mario. Named IM underscore world 1 underscore Toride, probably short for Cooper and Turtle, underscore 00.tpl. It's never displayed by the game, as it uses IM underscore W1 underscore Toride underscore TPL for the World 1 tower icon. What's interesting is that it shows how the early Larry boss platform looked. It's also unique because Mario is in the image, which doesn't happen in any other coin battle icon. Here's what that looks like. And also notice how Larry has a blue magical fire blast, or whatever you want to call that. Not a blue one, it's pink. Kind of like Roy's. So I guess it was initially changed in color to blue to match, Larry's signature color of his big-ass mohawk. His feather mohawk, whatever you want to call that hairstyle. Alright, early extending mushroom stem textures found in the pink extending mushroom archive with this code here. This is an early texture for the end of the stem called this code here. The final is called that code there. And here's an early version of that. Likely for those stem mushrooms we see in stages like 1-5. And here's what they look like in the final game. Alright, items menu. The items menu layout archive with stock item.arc for the code contains 2D item graphics and appropriate layout data, but they aren't used in game. Separate 3D models are used instead, which is kind of nice that they did that. Makes it look a little more stylized. And here's a closer look at them. If I were to click them, it will pick up each individual one, and I don't want to take that long with it. I feel like these images would also have been later used for the roulette block too. It's probably where they were used, instead of in the item menu screen. Alright, note. Just like the one we saw in the previous episode, a music note which appears in pre-release screenshots. It's still present in the game's files. Note.arc. Could have been very similar to the note blocks, or like the rainbow notes that we see in games like, in later games even, like Super Mario 3D Land. Or in Super Mario Odyssey, something like that, but black instead of rainbow colored. Alright, spring blocks. The spring block file, block underscore jump.arc, still contains the old texture shown in the E3 2009 screenshot. And here's what it looks like. Instead of the one we see in the final game in stages like 5-Castle. Or in the World 7 Lukitu ambush stage. Alright, wind effects. The file env underscore wind contains some cloudy similar to those used for the unused cloud/mist effects. These textures, however, have writing all over them. According to the text, the first 3 are meant for regular stages, while the last 3 are meant for desert stages, just like the sandstorms in 2-4. Since the textures are almost entirely white with transparency, the above image shows the files on a black background, and the original files can be found below. The final game only uses one type of wind effect, and its textures are stored as WMY underscore BG snow.3, suggesting this may have been initially used for World 3, and 4 and 5 apparently. For World 3 it makes sense, but for a beach in a desert, in a forest setting, I don't get it. Or jungle setting, I don't know. I don't think that would have fit too well. Inside env underscore snow.arc. It's also handled by the same sprite as the following snowflakes effect and uses most of the same code. This is only used in, as I mentioned earlier, World 2-4, a desert level. Alright, here's a closer look at this. Just like those water bubbles that we saw in the previous episode with these kanjis and numbers on them. Could maybe stand for temporary, but I don't know. I'm not familiar with that type of language. Alright, let's only look at one of these. Let's look at this specific one because it's kind of hard to see, but you can just barely make out a number 03 right there. That would have been used in these little black backgrounds, so you can actually more easily see it. I guess that's why that's there. Alright, the final game only... Alright, yeah, I already read that. prickly Goombas that we see in 9-7. Oh, that godforsaken level. Oh, I'm getting Vietnam flashbacks right now just thinking about it. But anyways, the prickly Goomba enemies from World 9-7, which use the model Karibo underscore IGA dot arc. As an early model under the name IGA underscore Karibo dot arc, it lacks the frames for the Goomba's eyes and has different animations. Oddly, the enemies actually loads both models, though only one is used. Alright, same with an unused texture for searchlights, found in light underscore search.arc and light underscore double and light underscore search dot light underscore single is used. As well as a question mark bubble. Kind of looks like it came out of Super Monkey Ball 2, actually. This has a similar name to the balloon actor that contains super mushrooms and revives players. So this model may have been an early model for that, most likely. And here are some of the videos of the prickly Goomba. Alright, it doesn't open up like this in the final game, and oh, it opens up a little differently. Yeah, that animation you can tell is a little unfinished compared to the one we see in the final game. If you want to know about that, watch me struggle in 9-7. No, I'm totally still not salty about that, not at all. Why do you ask? Alright, anyways. And this next one over here, I missed a white background. They were originally going to walk too. That would have made that level even harder. Probably the only reason this went unused. Just to make it a little more fair. Alright, and here's a closer look at the unused searchlight texture for World 6-6. And here's the stem of it that's used on the ship, once again in 6-6. And that unused question mark bubble. And as it's stated, likely used for when a player, a player character dies in multiplayer mode. Let me take a look at this one down here too. I missed a black background so you can see the little outline. And I think that would have likely been, because I think if I remember correctly as well in multiplayer mode, after a while, the game also give you a bubble with, actually no, I think it's either only in free to play or free for all battle or in coin battle, if I remember correctly. Been a bit since I've done that, but yeah, if I remember correctly, after a bit, the game will kind of give you a mushroom in one of these bubbles. Our world map diamonds. The world map has 3D diamonds that mark the path spots, but they aren't visible in game, as it shouldn't be visible. It's just there to kind of assign, so the game knows where you're going when you pick this direction or that direction, most likely, and it has to be invisible to the player, or else it's going to look a bit cluttered. Alright, notice how some of the models of the buildings aren't here either. Well, it's too far off screen to see the castle. You don't see the dungeon/tower here, you don't see the toad houses, and you don't see Peach's castle there. You also don't see the Goomba that would have been here either. So those were likely not implemented in yet when they were making this map design at the time of this image. And green coins. We do not see in any 2D platforming Mario game, at least not to my knowledge and my memory. The green coins objects file with this coin, object underscore coin.arc, contains a model and texture of a green coin. Kind of like the frog coins in Super Mario RPG. But it never shows up in game. It was originally going to be used as the collect 8 object in the enemy world map ambush courses. I honestly would have preferred those over the toad coins, I'll be honest. But it was later replaced by the toad balloons. Yeah, excuse me, toad balloons. The toad balloon object is still named N underscore green coins by the game. Green coins are used in the sequel New Super Mario Bros. Okay, never mind, I was wrong, I look stupid. With basically the same appearance, but a different functionality. It has been a bit since I played New Super Mario Bros. U. Definitely will play that again at some point in the future, but for now, not going to worry about that. Here's a closer look at the green coins. Alright, green snake blocks, because in the final game we'll only see blue ones in 3-Castle. And we'll later see them in New Super Mario Bros. 2, and they were in New Super Mario Bros. 1. There are 2 files for a normal non-IC, as I mentioned, non-IC snake block. Block underscore snake.arc and snake underscore block.arc. They both contain a texture similar to the ones used in New Super Mario Bros. For some reason, snake underscore block.arc arc's texture is from a higher resolution. And snake underscore block.arc is unused, so they just used the better looking one. But here's a closer look at it. I get why in its movement these things are called snake blocks, but their eyes don't look anything like snakes. They could have made it look a little more like a snake, I guess, but I guess it's supposed to fit into the cartooniness that is the Mario world. Alright, Ghost House poles. The purple climbable poles found in 3 ghost houses, or 3-ghost house, is rendered as a 3D model and is a sprite, in quotations, as in-level file representation of an actor. An unused 2D version also exists as a tile set object and has somewhat different coloring and shading. This actually fully functional if placed in a level. Tile set object poles like these are used in castles in New Super Mario Bros. So they just made a separate 3D model for it to kind of fit with the game's art style more, it seems. Because they'll definitely go back to these 2D sprites in New Super Mario Bros. Too. Alright, Big Thwomp. The only time we ever see Big Thwomps in the entire game is in 1-Castle. The Thwomp / Big Thwomp models archive contains an early Big Thwomp model called Big_Dozun. The used one is called Dozun _ Big, just like what we saw with the snake block earlier. So it being backwards, they used. So this one that was used Big_Dozun was likely this one with a higher higher color set, and it's a lot of not color set, but it's brighter is what I'm saying. While in the final game, the Dozun _Big one is this darker colored one. It's probably a slightly darker shading just to fit the game's lighting a bit more, since it'll already be illuminated a little bit from the surrounding lighting. Most likely. Our duplicates. The Sledgehammer, with the code lift_zen_hammer.md1, I think that is, 0, that appears in World 8-6, has a duplicate inside the Tower Boss Door archive. Object_door_to-ride-boss.arc, likely the code for Kamek, since that's the boss in there in the final game in World. Actually, no, not for Kamek, for Bowser, I mean. Either for Bowser or for Bowser Jr. is the most likely that code if I had to guess. Many models in the in the tower. I was right the first time with Kamek. So that's the boss of the tower. Unless initially the boss of the World 8 tower was going to be a different Koopa, perhaps. Which, I mean, Magic Koopa, yeah, you get it. Kamek's a Magic Koopa. Whatever. Many models contain duplicates or near duplicates extras. Our Red Wiggler that we see in 5-2, whenever you jump on the normal sized ones at the beginning of the level. The Big Wiggler's body model file contains a red variation of the main function, or the main texture, but Big Wigglers never turn red. In my opinion, how they should have implemented this is to allow you to ground pound on the Wigglers. So this could happen instead of just normally jumping on them. You can kind of control when they get angry or when they do not. So nice to know that some textures exist for the bigger Wigglers. Our dummy cubes. A black unused cube is found in this code here, in the objects folder. This model is used to implement the coins and question/brick blocks in some levels, particularly in World 7, which hop back and forth in time with the music. The hopping/dancing movement is an animation on the model, and the in-game object changes position along with the cube. The cube itself is normally visible, but can be made visible by setting a specific global variable to a non-zero value. In the European/PAL version, is set the byte at RAM address with this code here to anything but 0 to show it. And here's what that looks like. Likely it's probably just a hitbox to show where Mario or any of the other playable characters have to go into in order to hit the block/collect the coin is most likely what that is, if I had to guess. World 3 palms, which are in World 3 in the final game. Alright, the model CS_W3, short for World 3, _palm is an arrangement for palm trees meant for the island-themed world. So maybe initially World 3 was going to be the beach world instead of the snow world. This indicates that the island-themed world was originally going to be World 3, just like in New Super Mario Bros. And I think later on in New Super Mario Bros. 2, instead of being World 4. To further support this, the name of the tree texture in both models is W3_Ashie. The texture used by the World 3 version is twice as wide as the final version, adding more ridges to the tree leaves. The tree arrangement barely matches with the terrain of World 4 at all, with 2 of the trees being higher up. than the ground and none of them being at beach height. It also only has 8 trees, all the same size, rather than the 18 trees of 2 sizes used in the final version. The other world map textures names also suggest that World 3 was once the island themed level. In addition, the actor responsible for displaying the palm trees on the World 2 and World 4 maps is internally called WM underscore CS underscore 3 underscore palm. Here's a closer look at that. So if World 3 wasn't initially going to be Snow World, I wonder which world could have been Snow World. Maybe World 4 instead. Who knows? So this was likely meant for the overworld map layout. And we kind of see something a little similar in the final game, and that's about it. Alright, and this here is another one, the stem for the... Or, well, the bottom part over here is the stem for the palm tree, while this green part over here is the leaves. Alright, world map grid. In this code here, in the world map folder, is a simple grid, most likely used by the mappers to create world maps, most likely indefinitely its purpose. The following action replay code for PAL version 1 makes it replace the castle and start arrow in every world with these codes over here. And here's a closer look at this little grid they got. Alright, unused animations. Checkpoint flag. Alright, swing underscore L and swing underscore R are the codes for that, for the checkpoint flag initially being animated. These both were likely used with early versions of the model, because they do not fit the current bone structure of the model and look wrong when these animations are used through hacking. And finally, Yoshi. As seen in this video, if Yoshi is hacked into a tower/castle level, he has an unused animation at the beginning of the fight depicting him preparing to fight. Though his rider seems to be in a bit of a strange position, as this animation shows him standing upright. This suggests that either Yoshis were planned to be in the tower levels, or players were able to carry Yoshi across levels during development, similar to Super Mario World, and we'll later see that in New Super Mario Bros. U. Here's a closer look at this. Yeah, Yoshi does have a little bit of unused battle sprite. I kind of like that. It's almost fully finished, actually. And Yoshi's dead. Oh well. Alright, I shouldn't say that. That's cruel of me. Alright, well, I think that'll be it for this iteration of unused content in gamers in part 3 for New Super Mario Bros. Wii. If y'all enjoyed this, you learned something new and you want to see more, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and follow. Or just leave a like, comment, subscribe. Following is for Twitch. Follow Twitch too. Follow my Twitch channel as well, please. Alright, and as usual, the question of the day for this being, of all the unused content we went over today, which would have you like to see in the final game and why? For me, obviously Yoshi in the tower/castles. That would have been pretty cool. So anyways, in part 4, we will look at version differences and English translation differences. So thank you all for watching, see you in part 4, and have a terrific day.